Alright guys, welcome back. What's happening, lads? Welcome back, or welcome to Game 8 in this 11 game series between TyRanT BacT and SY Lix. Without further ado, let's just crack on into it and let's get this going. Straight off the bat, it looks like this map is Arabia. I'll take the Fog of War off. Yeah, it's definitely Arabia. I'll take the Fog of War off and we'll have a quick introduction of the players and we'll see who's what, who's where, and all that sort of good stuff. I'm going to turn team colors on just because it's a little bit easier to see red than it is to see orange. So over here to the eastern corner of the map, we have SY Lix playing in the blue trunks, and he is playing as the Byzantines today. His opponent who has, I believe, taken the past 2 or 3 games or something like that, is TyRanT BacT, or BacT, however you'd like to pronounce his name, playing in the red, also playing as the Byzantines. As mentioned just before, the map is Arabia. So back to the standard Arabia. It was nice seeing the Mongolia war, or the Mongolia matchup just before, but back to the Arabia we go, which means that it's probably a good idea to have a look at these guys' maps. So looking at BacT's map, we can see he's already taken 10 gold with this villager here, so it looks like a drush is pretty much guaranteed for him at the moment. Or maybe he was just trying to utilize that villager effectively. Maybe he doesn't want to drush. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the amount of villagers he puts over onto wood is going to be a really, really nice indication. Speaking of his lumber line, he has decided to go for this front one, or this lumber line out to the front of his base, opting not to go for this one out here to the back, potentially because it's too far away from his town center and these nasty hills around it as well, maybe providing too much of an advantage to his opponent. But he's gone for the front lumber line. It is quite a nice lumber line. It's quite, it's quite meaty. It's a meaty wood, so he should be okay there. He does have a front-ish stone. He's got a nice back gold. What else has he got? He's got a back stone here, back berries as well. Where are his other golds? It looks like it could be these two out towards the front of his base, so they're going to be pretty nasty for him to take, at least in the early game. It's going to be pretty hard for him to try and secure that if he does get pushed off, but this back gold is nice for him. The only bad thing, obviously, is sitting sort of like, I don't know, third of the way up this hill, which is going to be really, really nice for Lix if he does push in here and pressure BacT off of that main gold there. But all in all, BacT's map doesn't look terribly wallable. I mean, I suppose he could plonk some palisades there, maybe buildings and stuff across the front here, and then maybe he could wall off toward the back of his, or toward the edge of the map there, and that would keep that sort of left-hand side of his economy safe, and maybe just some huge walls across there like that, and some walls up there at the top of that hill, and that would keep his, that would pretty much be him walled up. But it'd be interesting to see if he does decide to wall, and if he does decide to wall, how he's going to go ahead and do it. Alright, zooming over to Lix's base, and wall ability, he's in a really, really nice position, in my opinion. Oh, okay, in saying that, I thought there was a lumber line here, but I was terribly, terribly wrong. Lix's map is really not that nice either. He does have a front lumber line with 4 villages over on wood, potentially indicating a drush incoming. He's got a front 1, 2, where's his third gold? His third gold, I can't even see his third gold. Let's just say it's that one. Oh no, it's this one here. So all of his golds are forward. So it's going to be really, really nasty for him. And his stones are pretty forward as well. His wood is forward. His berries are toward the back, which is at least nice for him. But the front of his base is just, he's sitting in a basin, which is really, really nasty for him. Obviously, BacT, if he manages to get control over this front area of Lix's base, and it's pretty much GG for Lix. He's going to be in. It's going to be so terribly difficult to be able to defend against any aggression coming in from BacT as he pushes down into this hill. Not to mention that this wood line is so easily towerable, it's ridiculous. A tower coming in back here from BacT is going to spell the end of this wood line, and Lix doesn't have another one for miles around that he could safely take. So Lix is either going to have to play really, really aggressive to keep BacT locked up inside of his base, or he's going to have to be able to defend his little butt off. Obviously, with 4 villagers having headed out to wood, we could potentially be seeing a drush incoming, but maybe he wants to try something else. I guess we'll see when the villager starts coming out from from Lix, that is. But BacT doesn't actually look like he's going for a doesn't look like he's going for a drush either. I suppose as the Byzantines, it would more or less make sense that we just see a heck of a lot of skirmishes. Especially owing to the fact that the the Byzantines just do get such cheap trash units, and you know there's camels and stuff in there as well that they get cheap, but they do get cheaper skirmishers, cheaper pikemen, cheaper camels, and all that good stuff. Barracks being thrown up now for BacT, maybe a little bit late, maybe indicating that he wants to go for go for man at arms anyway, but maybe just didn't or forgot to build the barracks, or maybe the wood was a little bit lacking. But he's decided to push out now with a scout to start scouting his opponent. Loom coming in for both players. I don't see a barracks being thrown up for Lix. It looks like he is going to be advancing to the feudal age very, very soon as well, and saying that he's a little bit away when it comes to food. I'm not really sure what Lix is planning on doing here. Oh, there we go. He's managed to get all the food now. Up he goes. It looks like we could be seeing man-at-arms, maybe with a forward coming in from BacT, but maybe he's just going to go forward and play with skirmishes. But with a couple of villagers going over onto gold, it's almost guaranteed that we're going to be seeing man-at-arms here from BacT. And Lix, it looks like has scouted that out. Yep, Lix knows what's coming. He's seen the amount of villagers, I can only assume, heading over to gold. So it looks like we're going to be seeing man-at-arms from BacT. What are we going to be seeing from Lix? That is the big question. I don't see any barracks being thrown up yet, although in saying that this villager could be moving out to do that right now. There's the barracks being thrown up at the top of the hill for Lix. Villages only spread over one lumber camp, so I can imagine that we're going to be seeing some sort of skirmisher, maybe man-at-arms defense as well here for SY Lix. BacT creating a little bit of a wall off out here toward the right-hand side of his economy, trying to keep himself a little bit safer over here for his wood. But both players clicking up to the, or waiting to get up to the feudal age now, and Lix, well, on the plus side, he knows that BacT is going to be going man-at-arms. But on the downside, he's not going to know anything else about what BacT is doing because he has just lost his scout. But it looks like we could be seeing a forward from Lix here. We can see one villager going forward by himself. Okay, I'm not really sure what this villager is doing. I would like to hotkey him though, as he gets attacked by a wolf. T90 would be proud for Gaia pushing in there. Wow, 4 militia coming forward for BacT. Obviously, his food income supplemented really, really nicely here by all these deer that he managed to push in during the Dark Age, pushing forward that is with 4 militia. I don't see man-at-arms coming in, which is a little bit unexpected. There we go, man-at-arms now coming in for BacT. Where have those villagers gone for SY Lix? Well, one villager, a hotkeyed villager, is going forward to tower up BacT's woodline. It's not too detrimental for BacT. Remember, he does have this woodline at the back of his base that he can take quite comfortably and quite safely, but double archery range being thrown up for Lix at the back of his base, or at the front of his base rather, creating a nice funnel wall off here, which is going to be denied by the scout. No, BacT getting a scout out of there as the spearman moves in. Has the quick wall been completed? No, the quick wall has not been completed. BacT is in on the wood line for SY Lix, and this is going to spell disaster for Lix. Obviously, a lot of idle time being created here for his lumberjacks. He might even get one villager being taken down by man-at-arms. No, BacT pulling the man-at-arms out of there, but now begs the question. What is SY Lix going to do with all of these villagers now? He can't exactly go back and take this lumber line. For the time being, skirmishers being thrown out, but this is the only lumber line, like I said, that Lix actually has at the front of his, on the forward. Nothing too much going on over there, but this is the only lumber line that Lix has. If Lix gets pushed off this, it is GG. It's more or less GG. It's going to be so difficult for him to be able to pull back from that. But a couple of skirmishes out now as well, being able to push back the man-at-arms as Lix manages to finally get this watchtower up at the front of BacT's economy. BacT recognizing the situation and now deciding to move out and create a new lumber camp, I can only imagine, at the back of his base. So he's going to be in an okay position. It looks like a pause had come in. Yep, the pause coming in now to the game, just trying to catch up on the sync. And here we go. The game has caught back up now. Fantastic. These men-at-arms not really doing too much. They're just taking pot shot after pot shot after pot shot from these 3 skirmishers and the spearmen. Spearmen obviously going to be doing a really, really nice job deterring the scout here from BacT to be able to push in and start taking down these skirmishers. So it looks like Lix has defended fantastically well, and he's also managed to create a little bit of harassment and a little bit of idle time on BacT's lumberjacks as well. This is a fair amount of skirmishes here. Obviously, the Byzantine bonus kicking in quite nicely for Lix here, as he is managing to get out a lot more skirmishes than would normally be possible with any other civilization for the same amount of resources. And now he's going to be in a good position to be able to push all these man-at-arms back. You can see that a lot of them are on quite low HP here, bringing villagers into the fight as well, and a blacksmith being thrown up. for SY Lix means he's going to be in an okay position. BacT obviously having thrown up a couple of archery ranges back at home, moving out with some skirmishes of his own. And it looks like, our villager from Lix has actually managed to stay alive as well. That's fantastic to see. He's a stone miner. He's got no stone, but he is a stone miner. BacT not BacT, sorry. Lix moving out to stone, obviously probably wanting to be towering up some of his resources. Remember, we said at the start of the game that a lot of his all of his resources, in fact, except for his berries, were quite far forward. So defensive watchtowers in and around his base is going to put him in a really, really nice position, in my opinion. And obviously, if he wants to get extra town centers up, once he gets up to the castle age, he's going to need that extra stone, owing to the fact that he did put a tower up on BacT's wood line here. The villager count pretty much even, neck and neck for both of these players. Military count dead even for both of these guys as well. And it looks like after that initial sort of that initial fun, enjoyable man-at-arms push that we saw from BacT, now he's going to start transitioning into the skirmishes that we normally see from the Byzantines as well. And he's going to be maybe even get a villager pick here. No fletching, I don't think. No fletching having been done for BacT. Obviously, skirmishes are absolutely terrible at picking off villagers. Doing 1 damage to them each time, but he's still going to be in an okay position to create a little bit of idle time at the front of Lix's economy, as Lix brings over his army, his quite considerably largest skirmisher army, that is, to push away BacT's 5 skirms, and BacT retreats back to his base with his tail between his legs as he continues this little wall off out to the right-hand side of his economy. Out here on the right-hand side of the map, BacT is going to eventually have all of these, all this skirmish, all these man-at-arms and scouts and what have you pushed back and defeated by the skirmishes. That it's just inundated with skirmishes from SY Lix. As SY Lix, he's got 4 villagers forward. We saw these villagers actually helping out in the fight between the skirmisher army from Lix that we see now attacking a skirmisher army. A couple of archers mixed in here as well from BacT as BacT pushes across the map into Lix's economy. These villagers I thought might have been going for to tower up some more resources or some such thing like that, but now he's decided against it. He's decided to bring his villagers home, and it looks like he's just going to be playing a little bit more of a defensive stature oriented game for the time being. Again, skirmish is still coming out for SY Lix. I don't see any defensive watchtowers, which in my opinion, would be a really, really nice idea. But for the time being, he is just hunting down these these skirmishers and archers that he knows from BacT that are coming around the side of his base. Obviously, fletching coming in now as well for BacT, and Lix deciding that the skirmishes that he's going to be able to create from his archery ranges back at home are going to be good enough for him to be able to defend against this sort of meager army coming in from BacT at the back of his base. Obviously, with a bit of a funnel off, a bit of a wall off coming in here as well from Lix. He's going to be in a nice position to be able to defend against these, to be able to funnel this archer army here from BacT in towards his town center, but it hasn't gone down that way. No, as he loses a villager. We see the skirmishers and these villagers now pushing out from SY Lix as well. BacT is aware to it. He knows what's going on. He's got his own army there to try and defend against this push forward of skirmishers. Both players, I believe, even on upgrades. Yep, both players having research fletching for the time being, but these 4 villagers now coming forward for SY Lix as well, placing a very, very ambitious watchtower at the front of BacT's economy, and this will be a really, really nice watchtower if he can get it up, because it's going to deny BacT, I would say, 4 farms at least, maybe a 5th, although I don't think it's going to be able to reach that farm there at all. The defensive watchtower finally being thrown up at the front of SY Lix's base, securing 1 and potentially a little bit of the 2nd gold here for Lix, so he's going to be in a nice position there. And a defensive watchtower being thrown up now from BacT as well. He hasn't moved out to start taking any stone, or has he? No, he hasn't started moving out to take any stone, but it looks like his watchtower is going to go up nice and safe and a lot earlier than his opponents here. He's still got these this sort of meager army here as well of skirmishers and archers floating around inside of Lix's base, but Lix is going to be able to clean that up quick smart, obviously owing to the defender's advantage that he holds over his opponent at the moment. And watchtowers now continuing to pop up inside of Lix's base means that BacT is going to find it a little bit more difficult to do any sort of economical harassment in terms of killing villagers with with a with these skirmishers and archers. Obviously, skirmishers can tank quite a bit of fire from the watchtower, but they can't take down villages very well. Whereas archers can take down villages quite well, but they can't take much fire from a watchtower. This watchtower at the front of BacT's base, creating a little bit of idle time. I think he's got 4 villagers cooped up inside this watchtower. Oh, 5 villagers cooped up inside this watchtower as he tries to push in. Tries to defend against this aggressive watchtower coming in from SY Lix, and it looks like Lix is just going full trush on this. Obviously, we saw that he had quite a few villagers back on stone, back at his home, but it looks like he's committing more or less not all of his attention, but he's committing quite a lot to his to this forward here as he loses a villager on the front. The economical lead is now starting to pull ahead quite considerably in favor of BacT, but the military count also actually still in favor of BacT. He's doing a really nice job at keeping this army here alive, just getting a few pot shots on villagers every now and again, and it looks like he might even be able to snag another villager here if SY Lix is not paying close enough attention, but Lix pulling that villager away, pulling him out of harm's way, and doing a really nice job there as well. As Lix tries to put up another watchtower, yet another watchtower at the front of BacT's base, who incidentally has done the right thing and walled up completely the front of his base and the side of his base as well. Obviously there's a bit of an opening here at the back at the back of his base, and he's not actually aware that he might assume that this wood line does connect to the edge of the map, which would be a terribly incorrect assumption. Looks like he's just run through the town centre here. I missed this, but he's just run through the town centre. A couple of army here from BacT having gone down, but he is creating idle time. No villagers taking stone at the moment, which means the watchtower progressive push at the front of BacT's economy, at the front of BacT's base, is going to be halted somewhat owing to the fact that he is managing to keep his opponent off stone. What is Lix going to do? Instead, he's going to market. Looks like he's going to try and sell his way up. He does have, a fair amount of gold and a fair amount of stone. Looks like he might be in an okay position, especially with Wheelbarrow coming in, to be able to click up to the castle age soon. But economically, BacT's economy, it just looks so much better. You can see the amount of farms, just a real brief comparison, just a brief overview, a brief glimpse. You can see that BacT's economy is looking so much nicer, especially with Wheelbarrow now coming in for him as well. He's in such a nice position. As long as he can keep defending against all of the skirmisher army that's now pushing in. That's actually a scary amount of skirmishers from BacT. From Lix. Another defensive watchtower being thrown up from BacT, obviously having moved villagers out to stone a little bit earlier. Means he is in a position to be able to do that. But this, like I said, a scary amount of skirmishes from Lix, and he'll attack, hill bonus or no. Lix is going to be able to micro his way up and get either on level ground or even higher than BacT, and BacT is probably going to lose his whole skirmisher army here as well. It might pay to bring some villagers into the fight for BacT, just to provide a little bit more arrow fodder and maybe a little bit more of an attacking presence. But like I said, this army here from BacT is going to get taken down, and the villagers here from BacT would do well to get in here and try and start helping out their skirmisher buddies as well. Neither player having clicked up to the castle age yet, but it's the economy that's really making me start to cringe. So many idle villages now being fixed from Lix, but that rhymes too, fixed from Lix. BacT finally managing to be able to bring in some villagers into this fight, and with the villagers and skirmishers and defenders advantage for BacT, he's going to be in an okay position to be able to clean up this sort of harassment force from Lix at the back of his economy, as Lix still continues to flood over some skirmishers. After having cleaned up the army from BacT that was buzzing around inside of his economy. But BacT should be in an okay position to be able to click up to the castle age very soon. Chucking down a market and buying his way up would put him in a really nice position, as Lix does pretty much exactly the same thing. Only a couple hundred food away is SY Lix from clicking up to the castle age, but 7 villages behind. That's a really nasty deficit for him to be in at the moment, especially since he is trying to buy his way up to the castle age, and he tries to put up another watchtower inside BacT's base, and that is not going up. BacT is aware to it. He's got some army in the vicinity. He's got some army in the area, and he's going to be in a really nice position to push this back. I don't know what actually happened to all the other villagers from Lix, but it looks like they are no more. Both players kicking up to the castle age pretty much at identical times, but still a 7 village deficit is what Lix has behind his opponent at the moment, and that's going to pay dividends for BacT in the long run. Gold mining coming in for both of these players as well. Now, it will be interesting to see what they transition into what they transition into once they get into the castle age. Obviously, the Byzantines, I think we've actually seen a Byzantine matchup already. And what did we see? I believe we saw Lix go for a couple of knights, but then transition back into the elite skirmishes. And I'm wondering if that's what we're going to see here from both of these guys as well. Obviously, having gone for skirmishes so heavily in the feudal age makes going the elite skirmish upgrades so much more worth it. Just because of the sheer amount of army that you normally have left over from the feudal age. But this is bad from Lix. He's losing that sheer amount of army, or a good chunk of the sheer amount of army that I was talking about. And BacT giving us a hint, giving us a little bit of an idea as to what he's going to be doing, which was going to be my next comment. Obviously, going for so many skirmishes in the feudal age means going knights in the castle age is also a very, very viable and intelligent option, because they're just such fantastic counters to skirmishes. But Lix coming forward with another couple of villages here and continuing to add watchtowers, just trying to punch a hole in BacT's economy and see what harassment he can do to BacT. BacT is aware of this. Obviously, he can see it. This watchtower is going up, nestled right up against his houses out here toward the right-hand side of his economy. But he's not doing anything about it. Maybe he hasn't recognized it yet or realized that it's coming yet. But either way, this watchtower is probably going to go up, or definitely going to go up, and will maybe be in range of these villages here mining stone. It's not too bad, because BacT does have another stone that he can take out to the back of his base here, especially if he gets a siege workshop up and a couple of rams out to clear out this that aggression at the front of his base. What do we see here? Elite skirmisher coming in for both players. Chain barding armor as well being mixed in for BacT, and we can see that there are a couple of knights being thrown out for him as well. So while he uses his knights to push in, or to be able to defend against his opponent's aggression at the front of his base, he's going to push out with his own elite skirmishers, which I believe... Oh, he's not researching Bodkin. Very interesting. No Bodkin arrow coming in for BacT just yet, but scale barding armor coming in for Lix, which only leads me to assume that he has a stable somewhere. Indeed, he does have a stable, but he's going to be in a little bit of a worse position, seeing as though BacT is up on 2 stables. Obviously, his extra 7 villages being
connection lost.
His extra 7 villages up to the castle age means that his economy is in a little bit of a better position to be able to push in with 2 stable knights, and Lix recognizing that and bringing his own skirmishers back to try and defend against the skirmishers from BacT that were pushing out, as BacT catches his forward siege workshop and monastery as well at the front of his base with these knights, and that's a really, really crucial and nice pick. These knights are just going to clean through any of the skirmisher army. Give me 1 sec. I'm just going to close that down because it's annoying me a lot. There we go. Obviously, the knights out here from BacT are going to be in such a nice position to be able to push back any skirmisher army from Lix that does push across the map. Lix managing at least to go... No, okay, he doesn't. He's got some monks out. Maybe some conversions going to pop in from these knights here, and that will be all good for him. In terms of town centers, in terms of economy, do we see anything else? No, we see a siege workshop being thrown up inside of BacT's economy, no doubt to provide another counter to these elite skirmishers that are buzzing around now that Lix is throwing out some camels to try and counter the knights that BacT was fielding to counter the skirmishers. It's also going to be using. But we can see that the siege workshop being thrown up, obviously, to get out of Mangonel, to be able to clear up these elite skirmishers here. And this is probably not a fight that BacT really wants to be taking, especially since Lix is bringing in some knight support here to get some more conversions on the knights. Monk support rather, to get the conversions on the knights from BacT, with the skirmishers firing behind, creating, just a little bit of extra firepower. Lix is going to be able to take that fight quite convincingly and quite nicely, although the villager lead still quite heavily in favor, I guess you could say, quite heavily in favor of BacT at the moment. But we can see another town centre being thrown up for Lix, so that villager lead might not be so heavily in favour of BacT as the game progresses, unless BacT throws up an extra couple of town centres himself. Does he have the resources for it? Well, he's got the stone, but he doesn't quite have the wood. But we can see that Lix now pushing off across the map, trying to punch a hole in through BacT's walls out here on the right-hand side. BacT doing the correct thing and walling up behind his palisades, obviously the weakest part of his base here, but managing to sneak in one of these knights here into the economy of Lix means that he's going to be able to pretty much get this knight killed by town centre and tower fire. So he's going to be, that knight's really not going to be able to do too much. Redemption coming in now for Lix as well. This is going to be such a fun and exciting game. How the hell did this camel get in? Okay, there could be a hole somewhere. I don't see where the hole is, but there's a camel that's just been battered to death by 2 of BacT's knights. But redemption coming in for Lix. This is going to be so huge. Obviously, redemption meaning that he can convert the siege from BacT. So that's going to be really, really nice as BacT tries to defend from behind his little walls here. Lix is going to be able to convert the siege and just have a unit inside of BacT's base that can cause a little bit of havoc. And it's going to be really, really nice for Lix as the game goes on, or at least as his forward aggression goes on, as he throws up an extra town centre out to the western flank of his economy as well. But the hole has been punctured inside of BacT's walls, and what is BacT actually doing to be able to defend against this? Well, he doesn't have any mangonels coming out, and obviously mangonels not going to provide any sort of defensive stature when you've got knights and camels roaming around inside your base. Skirmishes are all that BacT has to defend. He's got his villager lead, but that's going to start dwindling and declining owing to the fact that Lix has two town centers up back at home. And I wonder if BacT is actually thinking that. I wonder if BacT is thinking, well, there's a lot of aggression coming in. There's quite a lot of skirmishes, quite a lot of knights and camels. Maybe Lix's economy back at home is not actually that strong. Maybe he's investing a heck of a lot into this push, and BacT would be... Yeah, he would be wrong to think that, because Lix is actually going to start pulling ahead in villager lead unless BacT starts throwing up extra town centers. Instead, he's throwing up a couple of another watchtower inside of his wood line to provide a little bit more of a defensive stature and keep his economy a little bit safer from all this aggression that's coming in from BacT. But a huge fight coming inside BacT's economy here. What have we got? We've got a couple of crossbows now being mixed in for BacT. Obviously, they're going to provide a lot more firepower against the knights that are coming in from Lix. Lix has got some monks in there to get the conversions on the knights from BacT, but looks like BacT is going to be able to clean this up quite convincingly, obviously with the defender's advantage kicking in there for him as well, and the +2/+2 defense on his knights, meaning that they are just so tanky when it comes to tanking any sort of fire from the arrow fire from the skirmishes, any towers that are still buzzing around from Lix as well. So BacT, now he's in an okay position when it comes to having defended this forward aggression. Another monastery coming up from Lix as well, but like I said, economically he's pulled ahead. Lix has done so well and he's pulled ahead now. So if Lix can get his economy rolling, start throwing out quite a few farms and start looking at the Imperial Age, all the while managing to put all this forward aggression on BacT, then A, that's going to be a fantastic game for him, and B, he's going to be in a really nice position to be able to just steamroll through BacT. BacT, I don't think, has thrown up an extra town centre anywhere. His wood is a little bit lacking, obviously. Quite a lot of harassment and idling of his wood lines here just occurred. But what BacT needs to do now, in my opinion, is he needs to push back. He needs to hit back hard. He needs to hit back, and he needs to hit back hard. He's investing less resources into building his economy, so he needs to invest those resources wisely into army and use that army cost effectively and efficiently as well. Obviously, with the camels and the skirmishes and what have you coming across the map from Lix, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, because at the moment, the main constituent of BacT's army is knights. Which are going to be quite heavily countered by the monks that that Lix has out, and the camels that Lix is also streaming across the map. So, Lix is, I think, and in my opinion, Lix is in a really nice position. The scores don't really tell the whole story, is more or less what I'm trying to say here, as BacT throws up a monastery of his own. But I really think that that Lix is in a really nice position. BacT clicking up to the Imperial Age, obviously utilizing the fact that he's investing a lot less resources seemingly into army, as well as into building his economy in terms of villages. Clicking up to the Imperial Age quicker than his opponent, more or less what you would expect to see in such a situation. But again, so long as Lix can just hold his ground, at the front of his base, at the front of BacT's base, all the while managing to push forward and build up his economy back at home, he's going to be able to utilize the fact that that the Byzantines get a cheaper upgrade to the Imperial Age, a 4th town centre coming up now as well. Like I said, town centres everywhere for Lix is just what he needs to do at the time. For the time being, he can click up to the Imperial Age once he's got the buildings. He just needs to utilize the fact that the Byzantines get a cheaper upgrade to the Imperial Age, and he just needs to click himself up. Potentially going for heavy camels would be a really nice situation, or a nice idea, as he throws up an extra stable at the front of his base as well, mining heavily on stone. Maybe a defensive castle on the hill just outside of his base. Really, really nice position for him as well, in my opinion. But BacT up to the Imperial Age. Are we going to get a glimpse at what he's doing? Well, now he decides to throw up an extra town centre. But apart from that, I can't see any sort of indications as to what BacT is going to do. But I can see that Lix is deciding to stonewall in one of BacT's forward golds. And BacT pushing forward with some knights here. Again, not quite fully upgraded for the castle age. Still no +2 attack. But camels, defender's advantage, hill bonus, all that sort of stuff. Lix is going to be in a fine position to be able to defend against this. The only thing that I worry about is the fact that his forward aggression, it's keeping some of BacT's army busy, to be fair. But apart from that, it's not really providing too much of a worrying sort of imposing stature against BacT. But what is BacT planning on doing in the Imperial Age? Let's see what upgrades he's doing from any of his production buildings, in fact, because I can't see any indication as to what he might be going for. He's creating some more crossbows. Is he going to go Arbalest? I have no idea. Maybe he realizes that he needs to build up his economy just a little bit more. But BacT, okay, BacT has found out that Lix is going ahead and trying to wall up this this forward gold, and BacT pushes forward with some villages of his own, but a forward castle, or is this like a midway castle sort of thing coming in from Lix here? A really interesting position. Doesn't really provide any sort of cover of any resources, maybe just a really nice staging point for any sort of further aggression that Lix might want to be putting in from BacT. Obviously utilising the hill bonus that this castle is going to provide for him. Bracer and Arbalest coming in for BacT. That's what BacT is going to go for. Bracer, Arbalest, maybe mixing in some camels and knights and some siege rams when his economy allows it. But this castle is going to go up for Lix. BacT pushing forward with 5 villages here as well. Not much being done for them for the time being. Lix finally clicking up to the Imperial Age with a much stronger economy than his opponent here. And these knights are not being upgraded at all, so these camels that are still pushing forward, still flooding across the map from Lix, are still going to be in a nice position to be able to keep BacT locked up. Well, not locked up inside his base, but not pushing forward and starting to hit Lix's economy. Obviously, the Arbalest here just going to absolutely shred through the camels, but the longer that BacT is sort of cooped up in and around his own area, the better position that Lix is going to be in my opinion. So you can see the Imperial Age coming in now as well, along with some very late economic upgrades from both of these players, but that's fine. They've had a lot of other stuff to do as well. BacT trying to put up an extra town centre at the front of his base, but it's going to go up, but at what cost? More villages are going to go down, and we can see that there's a 34 villager deficit at the moment in favour of, a 34 village deficit for BacT. There's not too much else going on around the map. Again, BacT still just trying to clear out this forward aggression, or this forward base that Lix has at the moment. But Lix pushing forward with knights, Lix pushing forward with monks, Lix pushing forward with everything. And BacT seemingly has absolutely no answer to this. Lix has got such a nice stature when it comes to map control as well. BacT throwing up a castle at the front of his base just to try and provide some sort of, just stem the flow of units that are coming across the map from Lix at the moment. This castle, it doesn't really provide too much of a defensive stature over any resources except this front lumber line from BacT. And BacT throwing up an extra couple of ranges as well. No gold. That's BacT's problem. He's got no gold. Obviously, he's mined out his front gold. He can't take this one here because Lix has kind of lamed him in that respect. Lix is now trying to throw up an extra castle as well. Not really sure where that castle's going. It's going up at the front of his base. Going to secure a little bit more map control, as well as that extra gold at the front of his, midway between the two players here. This castle from BacT having gone up, like having researched now as well for Lix. Obviously, once he gets to the Imperial HSRs, just going to be flooding into the economy of BacT. BacT, he's not walled up. There's still a hole here, and it looks like he's going to chop through this wood line very soon as well, with two-man saw already having been researched for him. So like I said, Lix, fantastic position. Light Cav, Bracer, Chemistry, all coming in for him, as well as a forward castle. I believe he will be getting a trebuchet straight away outside of his other castle as well, and a extra couple of archery ranges on the front, providing a little bit more of an offensive stature, as well as some cover fire as his villagers out the front do manage to start taking more and more of that extra gold. But Lix, what a strong game this is from him at the moment. His economy is just going to pull him into the lead. And just like the Viking War on Mongolia, it's the economy. It's the economy and it's the map control that's going to win Lix this game. He's just managing to take control of all of the extra golds. And while BacT he's just forced to field a whole lot of trash. Granted, the Byzantines do trash very, very well. We saw in the Viking War on Mongolia that trash against gold units just doesn't stack up in the long run. And BacT is going to find it very, very difficult to be able to pull this game back if he can't get out trebuchets, if he can't get out rams, if he can't get out any sort of gold units to be able to defend his economy. 128 bills to 88. It's not looking good for BacT at all. He knows that there's, or does he know that there is a gold down here? He doesn't even know that there is a gold down here either. Any of the other golds that he can see is now firmly in the control of SY Lix. And BacT, yeah, he recognizes it. He knows the situation. He knows the gig is up. He knows what's going on and taps out, calling GG. So again, it's just reiterating that was economy and map control has definitely won that game for SY Lix in the end. Really, really well defended, considering his map was absolutely trash. And it just goes to show that if you play the game right and you defend well, and generally if you go really, really forward and aggressive when you have a crap map, then you should be in an okay position to at least take it to your opponent and give them a nice game. But really, really well played from SY Lix, a thoroughly well deserved win, and yeah, really nice game and well played for both players. We'll come out of this game, and I'll see you guys in the next one.